Hello and welcome to the 2 Minute Warning. I'm your host, Perry Busby. Sorry about the frog in my voice, but I've been traveling as well as uh, going through a period of not having enough sleep. I'm happy to be here tonight and happy to be with my co-host, Mr. Bobby Henry, publisher of the West Side Gazette. Bobby, how you doing, my brother?
I am terrific and getting better. Now I'm trying to represent because I'm up here at Florida A&M University on top of the highest hill in Tallahassee, getting ready to experience some homecoming activities here at FAMU. So both you and I, Perry, we are not in our normal settings. So if there are
Right.
any technical difficulties that arise, it's because we're doing something new. However, we are more than happy to be here and to have our guests who will be coming on to discuss one of the most important elections, if you will, that pertains to the 20th district in the Congress of Florida, the United States Congress of Florida. So, but I'm happy to be here, Perry. What about you, bro?
Oh man, I am excited, and just like yourself, I'm not at homecoming, but I am home. I am
Hmm.
in Texas, and but this was just too important of a time in the history of our district uh, to just be caught off guard and not available. And so I'm excited to hear from our two candidates tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know we could do our normal uh, debriefing or digesting of news that has transpired over the country as it pertains to the African diaspora. In particular, those events that have centered around HBCU homecoming at
Mhm.
Grambling and Fort Valley State. But we don't want to take up the time from what we're going to engage in tonight, with with
Correct.
with our candidates who are vying for this position. But if I could briefly just touch on that subject, uh, brothers and sisters and families who have engaged or connected to HBCUs, the senseless activities surrounding the death of two males uh, at or in the vicinity of our HBCUs, Grambling, uh, was it Grambling and Fort Valley State? Though
Mhm.
we had two deaths, and we just need to be mindful of how important it is to love one another and stamp out this self-hate, this envy, and the green-eyed monster. We gotta stop that and do better. So
Definitely
nah,
agree.
so yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what's happening in your home state, man? You know.
Well, man, well, I won't touch on the frustrating politics of Texas that mirrors the frustrating politics of Florida. But man, we locally, the latest news has been that police were serving a welfare check on an apartment where three teenage African American males were living alone, the oldest of which was 15, the youngest was 7. Uh, it's not just that they were living in this apartment by themselves. After police did a welfare check, they discovered the skeletal remains of their brother
Hold up.
who was also in the apartment. And as details continue to come out, we find out that at least two of the young men, we don't know about the young man who was deceased, but at least two of the young men that they found suffered from mental illness, some autism. So it's caused a lot of concern, not just the incident itself, but we're finding out that neighbors knew these boys were living there by themselves. And so, why is it that our community uh, did not reach out further? There were neighbors who brought these boys food every day, who sort of monitored them, but knew that they were living there by themselves, and no adult took the next step to bring in some remedy to this dysfunctional situation. And so, um, man, it is really terrible.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, there are situations happening all around us, and mental illness is something that we're going to address in a
Yes.
future program, because
Mhm.
there are instances here in Broward County as it relates to incarceration, murder, that's stimulated from perhaps some mental illness. So we need to address that issue.
Right,
Okay,
right.
okay, and we got some very good guests coming back on tonight too as well. Aside from those who are running from office, we have some community folk who will be addressing the candidates, if you will, with some questions. So how you want to handle this, Barry? What you want to do? You want to bring on the guest
Okay.
first, or you want to deal with
Yeah, let's bring on our
community?
guest first. Yeah, let's
Okay,
bring on our
okay,
guest.
okay.
Our first guest tonight is really no stranger to the show. Uh, she's been on several times as one of our guests, very involved in the community. Her work in Probation Station, an advocacy organization that helps our youth uh, who are caught up in the justice system and trying to help them navigate through that, as well as help their parents. Uh, but without further delay, I want to introduce Ms. Mona Lisa Weber.
hmm What's
Good
happening,
How
Mona
you
Lisa?
doing?
evening,
Very
beautiful
good,
people.
very.
How y'all doing? Hello, social media world. Appreciate all of you that are out there getting ready to listen to this amazing conversation. So
Okay,
excited.
Great.
Thank you for
okay.
having me, y'all.
All right, very good. Okay, and now we have two returning guests from last night. We're gonna bring them on together. That's Brandon Feeney and Ramon Robinson. These are positively paying individuals who are very involved in the community. What's
Thank
happening,
you so much
brothers?
for having us
hmm
again. We really
Welcome.
hmm
appreciate the honor.
Thank you for
Okay.
having us. Yeah,
hmm
very
Okay.
glad.
Now, did Reverend McNeely, did he come on yet? Did he make it back? Okay.
Uh, Not yet.
Okay. Well, when he comes, we'll just introduce him now and bring him on later. But coming from the Glades area is Reverend McNeely from Friendship Baptist Church, and I might have cut the title of the church short, but I'm sure when he comes on, he's going to make his presence known. He's very active in the community and speaks. He doesn't mind speaking truth to power. You talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. Reverend McNeely is one of them. So that's that.
Okay.
So is the man of the hour or the man of the minute? Is he back there?
Yes.
Okay, do the Perry, you do the honors, man, because I know this young man personally, but you
Okay.
do it.
Uh, our first guest is no stranger to Broward County and Broward County politics. He has served as an elected official uh, for some 17 years. He
hmm
started out as a commissioner for the city of Lauderhill uh, back in 2004. And in 2010, he was elected as Broward County Commissioner representing District 9. He's a real estate broker, business owner. Uh, he also attended Plantation High School for you Colonel alumni out there, and as well as 70 a graduate of Broward Community College.
hmm
And so, without further delay, our first guest tonight is Commissioner Dale V.C. Holness.
hmm Unmute
Commissioner,
yourself.
You're on mute. I
There
have
you
three
go.
different events going on at the same time. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a fundraiser I just ran out of. I got another Zoom I'm supposed to be on, and I left early. The youth summit at Oswald Park to try and get everything in. It's called running, really
Hmm.
running.
Hmm.
But let me say this to you. Thank you for hosting this event. Thank you for your engagement in the community and your empowerment of our people through information. Part of what you discussed earlier, the issue with mental illness is serious, and there's some statistics that you would find startling, maybe frightening. 70% of the children that are involved, of the juveniles that are involved in our criminal justice system, has emotional problems. 70%. And by the way, in the jail in Broward County today, according to the sheriff's office statistics that I received 2.5 months ago, 47% of those who are in jail in Broward County take psychotropic drugs. They're taking medicine to stay sane.
Mm.
It's a real issue that we must address and must invest more in to ensure that we're creating prosperity for all our people. Because when we have folks that can't live to their fullest potential, it's a serious issue. So this year, budget at the county has $1.5 million for supportive housing for those who are mentally ill. Part of what I've done over time is to really push for the civil citation program. We had juvenile civil citation program, a very successful program that bring resources to the household. Look to see, why is this kid in trouble? Is there abuse in the house? Is there drug addiction in the house? Is there extreme poverty in the house? Is there some mental issues going on? And bring resources there. We find this program to be very successful. Those who complete the program, 90+% complete, by the way, that enters the program, and only 3% recidivism rate. So less than 3% go back in the system. That's 97% success
Hmm.
for us in keeping them out of the system. That's a better way for us to spend our money than to
Okay.
lock people up for minor offenses, for misdemeanor offenses. I expanded that to include uh, possession of marijuana at the onset, 20 gram or less. And
Hmm.
listen, all of us on this listening to this know somebody who smoked a little weed,
Yeah.
including Bill Clinton, who said he didn't inhale, but Barack went straight out. I said, "Look, man, I smoked some weed."
Hey, Commissioner Mayor, civic activist, we're gonna slow you down a little bit because you on the road. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
you're on
Right.
the road. Let's do this. Let's start with Dale. Can I call you Dale?
Of course,
Dale, give us 30 seconds of who you are that we might not know. We might not know this about you. Spend 30 seconds on that.
well, first let me say this, that I moved to Broward County in 1975 as an immigrant. And you heard that I went to Plantation High. But listen, I got my driver's ed done at Dillard High School. Most people don't know
Mhm.
that Art Kennedy taught me to drive a car.
Mhm.
So if I drive horrible on the road, you blame Art, right? And really got into working while I was at Broward College at McDonald's, and they made me a manager at the age of 20. Bought my first home over in what we call Parkway, St. George's, at 3511 Northwest 9 Court at the age of 22. And then got into real estate business because I thought it was a way for black folks to empower themselves through ownership. Because when you own, you can transfer it to someone else. You rent, you got receipts that you give to whoever you want to give it to. Doesn't mean anything, right? I got involved in the real estate business later. I own my own company now since 1988. I got my license in 1983. At the peak of our company, we were at 86 agents doing 500-600 transactions a year, putting a lot of people into home ownership, and stayed involved and engaged in the community. I worked in Andrew DeGraff and Rice campaign. Only Bobby and I might know
Mhm.
who Andy
Mhm.
was. The second black person elected in Broward County. Jesse Jackson's campaign in 84 and 88. Bill Clinton campaign used my real estate office in 92 as their main call center for getting the vote out in Broward County. And I've stayed engaged and involved, and got involved here in the political arena after serving as the co-chair of the Political Action Committee candidate screening subcommittee for the Realtors Association in 98. And we
Mhm.
had drug dealers selling drugs at 19th Street and 55th across the street from City Hall, and the police station was on the other side. And I said, well, come on, we got to do better than this. And so none of the candidates really gave me a good idea.
Okay, hold it there, hold it there, Mr. Holness. Now you know you can go. So hold it right there. I mean,
Right.
yeah. Let's do this. Mona Lisa,
Yes.
we have. If you is there something that you would like to ask their Holness as a candidate for this most precious seat, if you will. Hmm.
Oh yes, of course I do. How y'all
Hmm.
doing? Good
Hmm.
evening,
Good, good.
everyone.
Good, good, good.
Um, I appreciate all of that back stuff that you just mentioned, but we not there right now. It's 2021. Our kids are killing each other. I work
Yes.
very closely with the criminal justice system. I'm in the courthouse. There's a severe mental health issue.
Yes.
Where is the money? Um, like listening to politicians really triggers me because it's the same rhetoric, right?
Mhm.
So my question is, since you've been in politics for so many years, and truly, truly in the communities that I live in, that I work in, ain't no damn change. Okay?
Hmm.
There's no change whatsoever. Mr. Holness, I have been to your events right across the street from the hood. Ain't nobody from the hood in your events. It's always some form of political cliques. All these people just clicking in Broward County. I have a child sitting in my lap and I am concerned about his future. So what is it that, as congressmen, you are going to do? What type of laws are you going to pass to ensure that mental health is truly addressed? Because all those statistics and all those numbers you're talking about, we don't care about that. We care about the reality of what's going on in our communities every day. I advocate for juveniles. These juveniles are running rapid. The state attorney's office are not being held accountable for releasing young children with mental health, right? Like no one is being held accountable for anything. How are you going to hold people accountable? How are you going to bring mental health? And I want like real concrete answers. I get very triggered because I've been dealing with y'all politicians for so long. And like, it may be good on one side, but it's sure ain't hell good on this side. So I'm asking, what will be done that's concrete? Simple answers, like what's going on, what's up, what we finna do, what y'all gonna do. Because and I'll just say this race to me is really like ridiculous. Meaning so many people running in one race, everybody running against each other. There's not a united front of our people. You feel me? For progression, it's always a competition. It's always self-serving. It's always like y'all politicians be on some crazy stuff. So please enlighten me with what type of changes y'all finna make for this one right here. Like what y'all finna do for real?
Mona Lisa, I appreciate your passion.
Oh yeah.
I hear it. And by the way, Mona Lisa is a beautiful song sung by one of our great artists, Nat King Cole. That's one of my favorite songs.
I love it.
So, yeah, it is. It is beautiful music. But let me tell you this. First of all, you missed probably a little bit when I spoke earlier about the mental illness, mental health issues that we face in our community. And in this year's budget, $1.5 million at the county level, I led that effort to put in to ensure that we have supportive housing for those who are mentally ill. We know that if people who are mentally ill are on medicines, they can function. I also talked about the fact that in our jails, 47% of the people that are there are on psychotropic drugs, and 70% of our juveniles who get involved with law enforcement have emotional issues. It is a crisis, no doubt about it. We must put funding in place, real money, real dollars to deal with this. And I'll tell you this, Melissa, we can talk more individually, but you can expect that Holness going to Congress will fight for every bit of money I can get to put money in place for those who have mental illness and emotional problems, especially within our school system. We understand that our school system becomes a place where our young people are. And oftentimes they will talk to their teachers or their counselors more than others. We need to make sure that within our schools, We have mental health counselors to help these young people to deal with the crisis and the issues that they face. That's a big issue that we must have. So you can expect me to bring something to the agenda, legislation that will put money in place for that. Because at the end of the day, if you don't got no money, you can't do nothing. All right? Let me be real. And I know you want to be real. Understand? And I don't know the event you're talking about that I have. I mean, I've been at the African American Research Library with Juneteenth, with Black History Month. And that's where we formulated the Black Action Plan that deals with a lot of these stuff that we talk about. In the Black Action Plan, there's actually a piece in there about mental illness and how we need to find money and funding and support for that. The Black Action Plan, if you haven't seen it, Mona Lisa, we'll be glad to send you a copy. All right? So you see what we're working towards. Now, listen, I'm one person and I'm not ducking. Okay, I'll fight, and anyone who knows me and watch these county commission know that I don't back down from a fight. I will do everything I can, and where I need to compromise to find some alternative way to get what needs to be done. Maybe even if it's only a piece for now until I come back. That's who I am. Okay, you can expect me to be out front and be real about it. Okay, I not just give you superficial talk and stuff like that. And I'm probably one of the most accessible people you find in elected office. I'm easy to find. All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll give you my number now. 954-325-4040. You can call me. Let's figure out how we get this done.
Mhm. Okay, good. Hey man, we off and running. This is all right. Perry, you muted. Unmute yourself, man. Perry, unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm not working on home base right now. So, but Commissioner Holness, I know if not the community, Lord, that we do have a group of Black elected officials, of an official group
Yes.
of Black elected officials who do meet. Uh, when it came to this race, did the Black elected officials get together to caucus about this? And I ask that because I hear a lot of us say a familiar refrain: why can't Black people work together? Or why can't we get our candidate into the race? As our elected officials, you guys are our voice. You men and women are our voices. Uh, was there? I mean, I don't know if I quite agree wholeheartedly with Mona Lisa about the lack of competition. I think competition is good. I'm just asking, was there an opportunity for our leaders to get together and caucus to say who is the best among us that can lead us?
Mm-hmm.
Perry, that didn't happen. Okay. And I want you to understand this. Also, give you some backdrop. This situation where you have someone who served so long in a seat in the Black community doesn't happen often where you get an opening. And I can't blame all the candidates for wanting to be involved. It's their right to. It's their right as citizens to get engaged if they choose to. I'm chair of that broad Black elected officials group, and I'll tell you this: even before you get to where we caucus, many of them don't get engaged. In fact, the congressman sometimes had to work with me to call them to get them to the table. And I'll tell you that there's one in this race, and I won't mention no name. Maybe after the election we'll talk about it, because I don't want folks to say that doesn't want their name associated with the Black elected officials.
Hmm.
Ask that their name be removed from our list. And all we say is, here's a list of Black folks who are elected in Broward County. So yeah, there's an issue, no doubt about it. We need to come together more often than not. In this instance, I wouldn't want to say, hey, tell somebody else, this ain't your turn. I understand that, right? So here's the deal. Let me give you something else that's a positive that we're not looking at with all these folks running. Heck, when Andy DeGraff and I run for city commission back in the 75, right? There was only one other Black person elected in Broward County, Boise Waiters. we come a heck of a long way, man, to where you got in Broward County, what, 5 of us are elected in this race. That's a huge difference. So it means we're growing. We're
Yeah.
accumulating some political power. Now, after this race, I'm hoping that folks find a way, and I'll support them. And Bobby and many, you know that I support
Yeah,
black
yeah.
leaders, especially black judges, on the front line for them all the time, helping them to get elected. In fact, I don't publicize it, but when you saw those 5 people get elected last year, I was doing a lot of work that many people don't see or know. I mean, in fact, all of you got a guide in your mailbox that maybe you use or didn't use, a black voters guide. All right, that I supported heavily.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we brought
Well, I
some
mean,
we
what?
brought Hispanic in to support us also. So
Yeah.
listen, there's a lot of good stuff happening. Yes, it doesn't look good. There are 11 candidates, and 5 of them are currently holding elected offices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Listen,
I mean,
we're
if I
maturing.
just may offer, I understand, and I know a lot of people can identify with this. Uh, I really don't give a damn about a whole lot of black elected officials if they only doing the work of one. And so to tell me that I have elected officials who don't want to meet, who don't want to identify as being one of my leaders, that's an issue. I really don't care if it's 15 of them. If 5 of them are not doing the work, then I don't have 15. I have 10.
I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Okay, hold that thought right
But
there.
there's some of us who are really working. I got to tell you
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
the Black Chamber
That's
of Commerce is something that we've supported through the black elected officials. I'm a founding member of the Black Chamber of Commerce, and that's something that I'm pushing for us to grow so we can create more money coming into our communities, and that these major companies know that they need to spend with our people and do some advertising dollars with us in our papers, and to hire us for security, for contracting, for attorneys, and for accountants to do their audits, not just for us to go wash some dishes. We got to get some contracts and some real because you can't give a job to your kids. You can't leave them that job when something happened to you, but you can give them the business you have, and that can go on for generations. That's what we
Yeah.
have to work to push toward, and that's why I got to the county. 10.25% of our procurement went to our small minority and women-owned business. Today it's 44%, $136 million last year. And you watch those county commission meetings and hear me. In fact, that's what you hear out front. It's worse when they come to my office and want me to vote for their contract, right? I tell them straight up, I need black people to make some money out of the deal. If they're not, then don't
Right.
come to me.
and that's okay. Look here. Okay, Raymond, I see you and Brandon here now. Now, you, Brandon, Mona Lisa, you're the younger folk. So what are you thinking, Raymond? What's clicking in your head?
Well, I did want to address the mental health issue. As you stated, that 70% of those serving some kind of time are dealing with a
No,
mental health issue. Are
no,
you familiar?
47% in jail. 47% in jail. 70% of the juveniles who encounter our juvenile justice system has some emotional problem. Not serious, not necessarily serious
That's okay.
mental illness, but 70% have some emotional. Not that they've been locked up, but they've encountered our criminal justice system in some way or the other. But 47% of those who are in jail are taking drugs to stay safe.
Okay, so let me ask you this: are you familiar with adverse childhood experiences, ACEs?
Not in depth. I'm not an
Okay,
expert.
so just addressing the traumas that our children go
Yes,
through
yes,
before they hit maturity, right?
yes.
When we start addressing those, whether it's violence in the home, domestic violence, sexual violence, whatever our children are experiencing, there's adverse childhood experiences, which
Understood.
California actually put $160 million into this, what they call ACEs.
Yes.
And so that's to address these issues, some before they even get to school, some while they're in high school, and the immediately when they started addressing these issues that these children were going through, they saw the graduation rate increase immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that something that you would suggest for our community as well here in South Florida?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We should. So let me tell you that I have a 16-year-old son. His mother died of a heart attack when he was 7 years old. We've had to go through a lot of stuff with that. And I know that he's still recovering from that trauma of losing his mother at that young age. So I know it's a serious issue for us. But I tell you this, California is a very progressive state. And what we're going to have to understand, Ramon, is that it takes political voice, political power to change the system. That's why I'm out registering voters. That's why I'm out driving people to the polls. And even when I'm not running for office, I'm doing it for other people. Okay, and because listen to this. The state of Florida isn't putting money in it because the folks that are in charge don't see it as something that must be done because they're looking out for the wealthy folks. They're not looking out for the folks who can't. They're looking at the folks who can afford to find the dollars to get the psychiatric treatment for these young people, the emotional support system put in place for them, not for the rest of us. So I got to tell you, a big part of what we must do and is to change the leadership at the state level because they got $90-something billion in budget that they can utilize in order to do what needs to be done to help send the money down. From the federal level, I'll push down everything I can and look for matches. So here's something that I would suggest to you that I will do. I'm going to look to see how at the federal level I can find funding to send to the state, to the cities, and to the counties for match. And that's the way you get more money in the system. Because if I say, okay, county, city, if you put 10 million in, we'll put 10 million in from the federal government. And then folks are going after those grants because it's money that you can get back into your state, into your community that can be helpful. So that's one way to do it, to get to not have to go through the folks in Tallahassee. But at the end of the day, we got to get rid of those folks in Tallahassee who are not progressive enough to understand the needs of the community. And in 2018, those of you who've been around know my work to help Gillum, who lost by 32,000 votes when probably about 150,000 folks in Broward County who were black didn't vote.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Brandon, I see you over there, man. I see you. You laying back in the cut. What's up? Come on now. Hey, Dale, get ready. Get ready, Dale. Now, get ready. Come on.
So, how you doing, Dale?
All right, brother.
And Dale, let me say this: this whole audience here, these young folk here, this is us coming up. Okay.
I understand.
And I know you appreciate this. I know, Dale. I know it.
Yeah, I was out there with Carlton and others.
Yeah, I know.
Back in the day when I was there, check.
Yeah.
I was with Push. They were with NAACP. Roosevelt Walters said he grew me up, and he did. He helped me grow up, right?
Okay.
At his feet, I learned a lot of stuff. So this is what needs to happen. Your daddy, Bobby.
I know.
I was there for the Northwest Business Association. Hell, I was like 22 years old.
I know. See, and Dale, I didn't want to go there. You know, I mean, because you can resume this long, but what I know is what you did. So
Yes.
you know, you speak and you work and you know, I know that. So, but Ray, come on, Brandon, get him. Let me see what you got.
Okay, so yeah, what you might not know is that we're colleagues at this point because I didn't know that you're a real estate broker, and you know, in the daytime, I'm a real estate agent, and so one of the things that's a real problem in South Florida in the country at this point is affordable housing.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on, you know, kind of, you know, helping people in dire straits right now as it relates to rent? What are your thoughts on rent control? What are your thoughts on, you know, things of that nature to kind of get people in a position where they don't feel like they have to be displaced? You know, I can run a lot of things off, so I want to stop there and say, what are your thoughts on, you know, just affordable housing in general?
So Brandon, I don't know if you know that I served as president of the South Florida Board of Realtors and served a year as the Political Affairs Committee chair for the NAREB, National Association of Black Real Estate Brokers. This organization was formed in 1947 when Black people couldn't be realtors. And the idea was to create democracy in housing so that all of us have a chance. As the head of South Florida Board of Realtors, we work with different groups, including Metro Miami Action Plan, to put thousands of Black folks into home ownership. And the reason I got in this is because I know how important it is for us to do this. In Lauderdale, one of the first things I tackled was to increase the home ownership rate over in in what was then referred to and sometimes still is Deep Side and Central Lauderdale, because I know that stabilizing community is helpful. So I'm going to give you something out the box a little bit here. You're familiar with the housing choice program, which was formerly referred to as Section 8. Most people know it as Section 8.
Sure.
Brandon, that can be used for home ownership. Most people aren't aware that it can be. Most of the housing authorities are not using it. Miami used it for a few. That's something you send me to Washington, I'm going to push for. Because rather than give someone money to give to a developer, why not give it to them to pay for their own homes? It can be done. It should be done. It must be done. So that's one solution that I tell you that I'll bring to the table. And my years being involved in the real estate business bring me that acumen where I understand what can and can't be done. NARAB is a great group. I would suggest that you join them. They're national. They create a brotherhood. I mean, I still get support from them even running an office because I was very engaged for many, many years until I got elected and then got my mission and my servanthood changed a little bit. But so that's one piece of it. The other piece that I want you to advocate for, Brandon, and you got to lead the charge because I've been advocating for it a while, and it's going to take some political muscle to get your city and your county to put in place what's called inclusionary zoning, which means that when you build new homes, if you build 100 or more units, at least 15% be reserved for affordability. Now, I hear rent control going around quite a bit. I doubt we're going to get there anytime soon. So let's work with what we have now.
What are your thoughts on it, though? If I may ask, what are your thoughts on rent control, if I may ask, though?
So there's two sides to rent control. You can put rent control in, but then the market conditions might be such that people don't invest as much in there. So it's a nuanced situation that we have to deal with. What I'm telling you about is a solution that allow for rent control, but done in a different way, because now you have mixed use units. And if you have a rent control building, then you're going to only have probably low income people in there, which creates some other social and economic issues for communities that have these in place. So it's quite nuanced. But if you can get the new development, like downtown, all those new development, they should have affordability built into it so people can afford it. And those, we have an agenda item actually coming up next week that will move or requirement that when we support affordable units being built at the county level, it goes for 30 years, not 15 years as it stands right now. So you push that out. And you can do that with your new development. We also have at the county level, by the way, compared to other counties, more money going into supporting affordable housing development than any others. And we're using actually property tax dollars to do this. We have 12 million this year in it. So we're looking for developments that we can invest and fund to create that affordability. That's a big issue. I want to see more home ownership also. So we want to look to see how HUD and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac create some opportunities for people who've never owned a home before to get into home ownership by the federal government probably helping with the state and the local government, put in some down payment assistance and some closing cost assistance.
Okay.
That's what we've used over time to do it. The state of Florida have the SHIP program. You're familiar with it if you're in real estate.
Yes,
that they've been raiding and robbing all this time. They should be putting all that money in. The governor and the state legislature need to fully fund the Sadowski Fund. And I know the Realtors Association was bringing a constitutional amendment to put that in place. They pulled back on it. We should push them to do that so that all that money that goes there should be put in place. If we had that in place, we wouldn't have the crisis that we have right now. Because over the last few years, hundreds of millions of dollars could have been invested in affordability in terms of housing that has not been invested.
Okay, let me jump in here. Now you know we got somebody else coming on. We got a very short window here, but we wanted to allow you to come and speak. Yeah, let me ask you this. Now the Glades, right?
Yes.
Okay, that is a part of this district.
It is.
Okay. Now, so I know, and we all know your ability to fight and to stand up for situations that have been wrong, if you will, against people who look like us.
Mm-hmm.
The Glades is a different structure How do you plan to get involved and bring those issues of the Glades to the forefront?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I know that I've been out to the Glades many a times. In fact, uh, before COVID shut us down, that in 2020, I was the Grand Marshal and keynote speaker for the Pahokee MLK Day Parade. So I'm very familiar, and I know what's going on there to a great extent. Certainly, environmental justice must come into play. And if we have to put money behind it from the federal level to ensure that that's done, we need to do that. But let me give you something else that I believe we can bring from the federal government now to this. Uh, those of you on here may not know of what's called opportunity zones, but you've heard of CRA. Opportunity zones are where you have high poverty, low income, high unemployment, that if you have capital gains, you can invest in. I know Brandon know this, and you pay no capital gains. I want to use that same mechanism that was passed in a bipartisan way to bring money to the Glades. How do I do this? How do you do this, Dale? So the Republicans want to expand the number of opportunity zones, especially in rural areas. I'm going to say, oh, I'll join with you, but here's a requirement that I have for you. And the Glades is an opportunity zone. Here's my requirement. One is that when these jobs are created, they must be designated for those in those communities. And Bobby, you and I had a similar situation on Sistrum where some 12 million was spent and there was no requirement that the folks over there get any of the jobs or any of the contracts from people within that community. So I'm going to say, listen, you want to expand, Mr. Republican, it's okay. We'll expand, but here's what must be done. Here are the conditions that I will get you support for. One, the jobs that are created must be sourced through that community and a percentage be designated for that community. Two, businesses in these communities must be given contracts to work on these jobs. And you're going to tell me, oh, we didn't get enough? Well, you're going to put some money in federal government to help these businesses to build capacity, which means you give them technical support to do their business plan, to bring their attorneys and their accountants in place to make sure they're structured well. Secondly, you're going to give them access to capital so that they can meet the requirements that's necessary to do these buildings. And further, you must, Mr. Federal Government, since you're going to have this program, here's what I want from you. You got to put more money in these communities to create home ownership and improve affordability for homes in these communities, so the folks that are there can have decent homes. That's something that needs to be done. We need to upgrade some of the housing that are out there. Bobby, if you've been out there, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The other part of what I want to do also, what I'm going to require in this legislation is that additional funds be put in place for technical training and college. Okay, oftentimes we talk a lot about college, but there are a lot of people who can go out and make a good living by becoming plumbers, electricians, and those jobs that doesn't necessarily require you go to college for 2 or 4 years. So I want money for that. I want money also for free college for these communities. If you don't want to do it universally, let's target it to where the need's greatest. And this is one of the communities where the needs is tremendously great. I want additional money in there also for healthcare, targeted to these communities. And Bobby, we're doing some of that in Broward County now, thanks to Bertha. We looked, when we got the CARES money, 6 zip codes that has the highest poverty unemployment. That's where the money was targeted for. I pushed for that, and I got support from Bertha and others to make sure that these communities get the first amount of money that comes in. So right there, we can do a lot. Further, there's a plan that's in place for a while that has not materialized, and that is to create what they call an inland port. So you create a logistics hub. Port of Palm Beach doesn't have much land around it. You could actually have your storage of stuff out there, move it back and forth, but also create a free trade zone where you can have stuff come in and light manufacturing can be done. You ship it back out of the country without having any taxes, make it duty free coming in and going out if you have that kind of stuff. And also help with creating some jobs for light manufacturing. And look to see how we can build that and strengthen that so that we can lift many of those people in the Glades out of poverty. Okay,
and now we have to do this. And Dale, again, we got the candidate, Mr. Phil Jackson, ready to come on. So if we can, If and I know this is seem like it's coming to an abrupt end, but it's only the beginning. And Commissioner, Mayor, activist, Dale, we want to thank you, man, for at least giving us an opportunity for folk to hear. And we wanted to get into some more things so people could know you more than a fighter. You know, I mean, there's some technical aspects of what you do, and we know this. We've seen it work. So I do want to say thank you. And if you could give us, Dale, I know 30 seconds is hard for you to do. Uh, you know, we know that. But if you could give us something, if you can leave us with something in 30 seconds that we can take to the bank about what you're gonna do, that would be great, and we can we
So
can
let
move
me
from there.
say this. Thank you so much for hosting this. I'm truly grateful for it. Let me say also this, right? That uh, Congressman Hastings was a heck of a fighter. Was a powerful voice for us, uh, and he saw that I had that fight and that I would be the one to carry his legacy forward and build on it. That's why he supported me, and he asked his family and everyone else to support me for this seat. You have a fighter in me. I will do everything I can. I'm very accessible. I am in the community all the time. People know how to reach me. I listen. I make adjustment and adapt when we need to in order to move our community forward. I'm here for you to move an agenda that will move the community. And certainly, it's a district that includes more than black folks, but we got to look to see how we lift up those who have been left behind. And the city financial study that says we lost $16 trillion in gross domestic product because of or inequities racially that we must fix. That I passed an ordinance last year to create this racial equity task force for Broward County. That's the kind of fight that you'll get from me to ensure that we're moving everyone forward for prosperity for all. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Okay, very good. I must say this, and I'm not bashful about saying anything that's truthful. And Dale, I would tell you this and any other candidate. Uh, Dale, you have always stood up for, and I'm saying black businesses. I don't give a doggone if you're Haitian, Jamaican, whatever it is, you black. For that
Mm-hmm.
aspirin diaspora, you have always stood up for that. And I'm going on record to say this, Dale Holness, no other candidate has spent any money in black owned media. You're the only one to do that. And I'm saying that means a lot. When you put your money where your mouth is about black businesses, then you deserve to be heard. Now I'm saying that, and I ain't running from it. I'm telling you the truth. So, Mr. Holness, thank you so very much for being a part of this. There was a comment that came up. I wish we can pull that comment back up from the sister. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if
saw.
we can.
I glanced at it, and it says basically
There it is.
these benefit investors. So let me tell you, she missed a part of what I said because I talked about direct infusion in terms of dollars for training, dollars for the businesses there. I'm not just looking for the investment money that goes to the corporation in terms of deferring of capital gains taxes. I want direct dollars to go into these communities that have been left behind. We already have something in place that gives us an umbrella to utilize. Many of these are communities of color. So what I'm saying is this to the young lady, Leah, is that I want the federal government to put direct dollars into training programs for the folks in these communities, into healthcare for these communities, into educational dollars for free college, into the businesses to give them support so that they can grow. Yes, direct dollars to help with home ownership and affordability of homes in these areas. That's what I'm talking about. Direct money going to the people in these communities, not going through some other investment group like the CRA program that we have in place that says we're going to give wealthy people some money and they're going to go ahead and do what needs to be done to fix the community. It don't work. I know that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Dale Holness, Mayor Holness, activist Holness, and Brother Holness, man. You know, really, thank you very much, man.
Thank you, my
And
brother.
God bless you. Hey,
Thank you.
good luck and thank you.
I hope some of these people didn't leave without giving me no money. I got to go out and see what
Enjoy your night.
Thanks, Dale. Okay, don't want to please, and everybody who's listening and looking, please don't go anywhere. We got another candidate coming on, and Perry, if you would introduce our next candidate. I don't know if Reverend McNeely has made it into the studio. If not, I do know. I think that Leah, Miss Gaines, Miss Leah is from the Glades area. So please stay around and let's hear from that perspective. So okay, Perry. Mhm.
Okay. Our second guest tonight is also a candidate in the congressional 20 race. Is Dr. Phil Jackson. Dr. Jackson is a business owner as well as a retired college vice president, dean, and professor. He taught political science and sociology at Palm Beach State College. Dr. Jackson says he's a lifelong Democrat, and his work can be seen from the White House to many of our uh, state houses, including Illinois, Maryland, North Carolina, and Florida. He is also a proud United States Navy veteran who has served his country for 30 years. And he is well deserving of our gratitude for his service. And so, without further delay, Dr. Phil Jackson. Welcome, Dr. Jackson.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm pleased to be here.
Mhm.
And thank you for allowing me to come on a little late. I had an opportunity to speak with some teams, trip teams, down in Fort Lauderdale, and it was a long journey back up here. I was lucky not to get caught flying too close to the ground. So thank you for waiting on me, and I
Mhm.
appreciate the opportunity.
Mhm. Dr. Phil, if we can call you our Dr. Phil. How are you, man?
Oh, yes, sir.
And okay, aside from all those accolades, one thing that sticks out is the fact that you're a veteran. But it also, I've did a little reading on you. You have uh, been in the trenches for being in office, and even though you lost a few, you have never lost a zeal. What is it about Dr. Jackson that allows him to remain in the batter's box, taking swings at the balls that come by?
Well, I have to give credit to my family. I had a couple of uncles who were very involved in the civil rights movement early on. One of them became a Muslim and was involved at the time with Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Uh, he's also, a couple of my uncles are also standing behind Martin Luther King as he delivers his "I Have a Dream" speech on the mall there in D.C. So I spent my childhood listening to the albums, those big old, what do they call them, 38s, those LPs of
Yeah.
speeches of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X ringing through the house. And I think they raised me right in terms of being willing to stand up for our people and not being afraid to step out. I also had the opportunity to attend a historically black college in Durham, North Carolina Central University. And it was during the time that I was there that a shooting occurred in Greensboro, North Carolina, where 5 people were shot dead for trying to organize a labor union at a local mill there. Those people who killed those folk were Klansmen and Nazis. They ended up getting acquitted. Well, I was at the time involved in the campus NAACP at North Carolina Central University. And on the day the acquittal came down for these guys who had killed these folks, so happened that Georgia State Senator Julian Bond, who was a regular lecturer at North Carolina Central University, was on campus. Well, our little group of students, NAACP members, stormed into his lecture hall and insisted that he address us and tell us what we should do as our next steps to deal with this situation because we thought it wasn't right. He agreed to talk to us. We ended up having him move over to our lecture hall, and he addressed us and told us about the history of North Carolina Central University, NCC, and the fact that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, got started as a result of a speech that Dr. Martin Luther King had given at North Carolina Central University early on in the 60s. Well, he said what we should do is organize just as those students did, as they organized and did the sit-ins at the Woolworth counters. And some kid in the back of the room, 22 years old, started shouting out, "Well, let's organize and march now." We ended up getting uh, Senator Bond off of that platform, and Senator Bond ended up leading us downtown to the city hall where we sought to speak to our state's Attorney General, Mickey Michaud. Mickey Michaud addressed us and assured us that he would continue to work to see that these people were at least held accountable for the violation of civil rights for these folks they shot and killed.
Mhm.
They ended up having two court cases. They never were held accountable for the violation of the civil rights of these individuals, uh, even after they were initially acquitted. But they did get sued in a civil lawsuit that ended up breaking the Klan and Nazi organization in that area. They were sued for millions of dollars and basically broke that group, and they have never been active since. So I got started as an activist back in college, back in the early 1978, late 70s and early 80s. I got hired at Palm Beach State College to teach political science and sociology in 1983. I just looked around and I saw that there were no blacks running for office. There were no black seats being held by anybody from our community, and we didn't have a voice. I was the first African American to run for Congress in this area. I lost, and then I ran again for the county commission. I lost that too. And I had a friend by the name of Percy Lee, who was the head of the who was executive director for the Urban League here in this area. He's also L.C. Hastings' cousin, by the way. He used to make fun of me. He said, "Well, Phil, why do you keep running for these offices that you know you can't win?" And I said, "Somebody has to be out there providing a voice for our people, for our community." So I've always stood up for the rights of our community, of senior citizens, of our families, and the very issues that progressives are calling for now: health care, uh, uh, increasing the Social Security benefits for our senior citizens, providing support for our homeless and for our children and mental health support. Those are the very things that you'll find if you were to read the newspaper accounts from my campaign back in 1986, 88, and 90. Those are the very issues that I stood on then. I ended up leaving this area back in 2002, and I ended up going to Illinois, where at that time I was introduced to a lady by the name of Carol Mosley Braun, who had been our first United States Senator, female United States Senator. She was then seeking to become the Democratic nominee for president. She ran into some issues during her campaign, and she did not win. I credit Mr. James Polk, who was a very active member of the union up there, the auto uh, labor union up there, of introducing me to her. But he also gave me a call one day and said, "Dr. Jackson, I would like to," I was a senior vice president at Illinois Central College at the time. He gave me a call and said, "I'd like you to set up a brown bag lunch for our U.S. senatorial candidate." One of those candidates was a guy by the name of Barack Obama, who ended up becoming our 44th president. So I got involved in the national politics while in Illinois. Uh, and eventually I left that position. I ended up in Maryland, where I ended up working with some of his cabinet members on some labor issues in Illinois, providing job opportunities and education opportunities for people who were being transferred from Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, down to Aberdeen Proving Ground. We had to provide education and training opportunities for their families and for those service members as they made that transfer, doing what we call base realignment and closure. We were trying to reduce the size of our military, right size our military, and I was actively involved in that process in Maryland in what they call the Science and Defense Corridor there. So I'm the only candidate in this race who has national experience, national exposure, working for candidates across this country in the Democratic Party, and having worked with Obama administration personnel, as well as Governor Malley's people. I was on his higher education commission or council for his transition team when he first got elected governor. I've also been active and involved in getting a candidate in North Carolina elected to the courts there, Sherry Beasley, who is now running for Senate in my home state of North Carolina. We hope to have her as our next senator out of North Carolina. So I have been working across this country on behalf of Democratic candidates much of my life, and I've tried to provide a voice for my community whenever I can. I also had the opportunity to with L.C. Hastings prior to L.C. Hastings becoming our congressman. We fought to get the districts cut back then because we didn't have opportunities to run for offices like we do now. We have people walking away from offices right now to jump into this race. And when I saw that, I says, well, what's going on with these people? Don't they realize that we need them to fight this redistricting battle? Because if we leave it up to the Republicans to cut these districts without having a voice there, they're going to do whatever they want to us. Well, we fought hard to get these districts cut. We got District 23 cut. L.C. Hastings ran for that seat. But prior to running for that seat, he was also very active in our community up here in Riviera Beach. We had a lot of gun violence related to the cocaine, the crack cocaine epidemic that plagued our communities back in the 80s. Well, I marched with L.C. Hastings and Jesse Jackson, some of the others who visited our community up here against gun violence in our community back then. So I have been active on the street as an activist. I have watched this campaign unfold as I'm retired now from education. I'm retired from the Navy. And I'm sitting here on my sofa and I see a lady put the signs on the side of the street saying that she'll give people $1,000 a month. And I'm thinking, how the heck is she going to do that? Well, that $1,000 a month in universal basic income, that is a libertarian idea. The purpose for that unitarian idea that got its birth back in the late 50s and early 60s was to do away with Social Security Act of 1935. The idea is to give people $1,000 a year. To give them that $12,000 a year, we won't need Social Security. We won't need SNAP. We don't need unemployment insurance because people will take care of their own. Well, that ain't going to happen. Not as long as I got breath in my body. I'm going to fight that nonsense the day I die. The other thing, too, is I watch these 5 people leave their positions in the state legislature to go to and leave their positions on the county commission to jump into this race. We need you on those seats and those positions that you're in. You just had one on your board. They keep talking about, well, they're terming out. You should be there through the end of your term. That's why I'm in this race.
Mr. Jackson, you know, no, you all right. Look here, you down to earth, you know, and we do understand and feel your passion. We truly do, you know, and Lord knows, I know when you did your dissertation, you had no problem in presenting everything you needed to present, you know, and you you are well-rounded, you articulate, you know, and you're on point. I can see, we can see, you know, we can see that, you know. But what I'm gonna ask you to do,
now, I don't have the experience on the state legislature. I don't have the experience on the county commission that these others have. What I have is a passion to serve our communities and to serve the people in these communities.
Yes, and that's coming across. But can we ask you something? Can we have some of these young people out here ask you a question before we run out of time? Because no. And Dr. Jackson,
y'all waited for me. I can wait on you.
Okay. I know, with all sincerity, no, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, bro. If we don't allow each other to talk, to give each other a chance, we doing each other a disservice. So what you're saying, it needed to be said. We needed to hear it, and I want you to understand that, you know. So we are appreciative. Lord knows we are of what you have told us, you know, and now so we want to ask you something from different perspectives. That's all. But man, you know, I can sit here and listen to you, you know, because you got something to say. You dropped some knowledge. Okay, we want to start. Let's go with Brandon first this time. Let's see what Brandon. Perry, unless you wanted to jump in.
No, we're gonna let Brandon go.
Okay. Unmute, Brandon.
How you doing, Dr. Field?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. So I had a particular question and I seen a direction you want to go in, so I may kind of make it a hybrid type question, so forgive me. I think Omari and maybe yourself just said, because I'm not really sure what your policy platform is, said something about being progressive. I wanted to see if that's what you said before I continue. Did you consider yourself
these people who are calling them progressives to nowadays are running on the same issues that I ran on back in 1986. To me, cool. They're not progressive issues. They're fundamentally democratic issues that we've been fighting for all these years. They're choosing to call themselves, That's just a way to divide us. Progressives, moderates, conservatives, Democrats. We're all Democrats. We want the
Understood.
same
Okay.
thing.
Not a problem. So with that being said, being somebody that is, somebody that's proud to say that they supported Bernie Sanders, I see a lot of black quote unquote progressives speak on issues such as Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, and all these things that are great that materially affect the lives of black people. But the question that I have, being that this is the blackest district, from my understanding in the country, what specific things to black people, not the things that have a residual effect that you have on your mind that could help our community?
Well, I have a passion for the Glades area. I was running on this issue about polluting the lake and the burning out there from the very back in the early days. I had the opportunity to. It was a crazy guy. I call him crazy. He was my friend. He was my buddy. His name was Al Zach. And when I first got into the race back then, he says, "Jack, you got to come with me out to the muck." I said, "What do you mean the muck?" He says, "Go out to the Glades. You need to meet some people out there." So he took me out there. He just introduced me around to the folk in the community. I got to see the Glades firsthand and to meet people and walk every inch of that land back in the 1980s. And then again in the 1990s when I ran for the county commission that extended out to that area. I mean, the state legislature that extended out to that area. I was one of three people who has been in this race outspoken. I am one of three people in this race, and there's 11 of us, who has been outspoken about the black snow that's being rained down on the people out there. We need to cut out that pre-harvest burning. We need to use technology that we know works. It's embarrassing to have Brazil and other third world countries to come to the realization that the burning that they were doing in terms of the pre-harvest burning of sugarcane is causing damage, harm to their people. We see the rates of illness go up among our children out there threefold in terms of respiratory illnesses. There's also cardiac illnesses that come along with this pre-harvest burning. And the only time they made a shift in terms of the schedule that when they burned out there was when the people out in Wellington, where the money is, started to complain. But they still continue to rain down this black snow on the community out there. We need to get these people to change their practices, use the green technology that they already use out there. They just choose to use it at their will. And we need to force them to keep those monitors that's supposed to be monitoring the air out there, the quality of air out there, up to standard. 8 years, they went without these monitors working properly, and they were reporting back that they were working properly. Well, somebody needs to be held accountable. So I'm in support of the state U.S. senators and the state U.S. representatives who are outside of our district, outside of our state, who are looking down at us and saying, well, hey, y'all need to do something about that. You don't hear anybody in in our state delegation, our congressional delegation speaking out against this.
Understood.
The monitoring that we need out there only costs $35,000. And that's a minuscule amount compared to the amount of money that we provide to subsidize farming out there. I have nothing against farming. I come from a farming community in North Carolina. My grandfather was a farmer. Both of them were farmers. And I understand the needs of farmers. I don't mind subsidizing farming because we are the breadbasket of the world. And we need to use that breadbasket to feed our people across this nation. But we also need to look at creating new job opportunities out there. We can take the residual that's produced from the green harvesting technology, and we can use that to create biofuel. We're doing that in part out there now. There's one company out there that is actually doing that. We can create more jobs out there using that technology. We're using the same technology we did back in the 1950s, when the technology now exists for us to do it better, to do it cleaner, and do it more healthy for the people who live in that community.
Okay.
So that's one of the things. That's one of the issues that I see we need to address. We also need to look at affordable housing. There was some conversation about rent controls. Yes, we need rent control. We also have the National Housing Investment Act, and that is a bipartisan act that will put over $50 million into affordable housing, taking old homes, renovating them, and creating grant opportunities and subsidized opportunities so that people can get into houses and start to build wealth. Housing is one way. Home ownership is still a viable way to build wealth in this country. I was just reading an article in the American Association of Sociology, Sociology Association annual journal that states that they just done a study across the world, and having home ownership is a viable way to build wealth not only in this country but around the world and other developed countries as well. So we need to put people in homes, and we have an act now that will subsidize housing, rehabilitate homes, not gentrify them, but revitalize communities so that people who buy these homes can stay in those communities. I feel I'm talking too much again.
Yeah.
Let me just get this last thing in, Bobby. Let me just get this last thing in.
Brandon, go.
This is where my brain went.
Sure.
I was curious, Dr. Phil, as you labeled the what Dr. Martin Luther King called at the time a guaranteed income, and you called it a libertarian idea. And from my understanding and my studies, he was a social democrat as today's standards. So I was trying to figure out what was your issue with the idea of giving $1,000 away to those that make less than $75,000 a year. I think that's her proposal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
One that's coming from the national situation that Andrew Yang was pushing during his presidential campaign. And so if she's not attempting to get rid of those other programs, because I'm not sure if that's in her proposal, I was just curious to see, were you using the term libertarian to kind of, I guess target a different group, or what? I just was curious about what that was
targeting. I'm targeting the proposal itself.
Okay.
The UBI, Universal Basic Income, was proposed by Milton Friedman out of University of Chicago. He's an economist. Ronald Reagan's principal economist. Ronald Reagan tried this idea. They ended up using what they call a negative income tax. Well, that sent us into back in the early 80s. Okay. What I'm telling you is that where this plan comes from is a libertarian by the name of Milton Friedman. Look him up, out of Chicago. That plan is designed to end the Social Security Act of 1935. Do the basic math.
Milton's plan or her plan?
Let me finish up real quick. We're now arguing over a $3.5 trillion plan that's presented by Joe Biden. We only take and that's over 10 years. We only take in $3.5 trillion annually. In order to do what this young lady is asking to do, it's going to cost $2.4 trillion. So the question that really needs to be asked is, what does she plan to give up? This is why I say you have, and anybody you look at, do the research. Go to my website, and I tie on the page, on one of my pages, under my platform, I talk about the UBI, and I even link it to research that's been done on the UBI. Those people, whether they call themselves progressives, and there is a progressive group that is pushing for this, or they call themselves conservatives, they both say that they're going to have to end some of the social welfare programs that we currently have in place in order to afford this. The question that needs to be asked of this candidate is, what is she going to give up? We can't do it because it's going to cost us $2.4 trillion a year. We take in $3.5 trillion, $1.1 trillion to do everything else that we need to do. Do the math. That's why, and the way one way that they say they're going to fund it is through a value-added tax. A value-added tax means you add a tax on the production process all along the way, from start to finish. And where does it end up? Where's the finish line? The finish line is when you go to your grocery store, when you go to shop and you buy something. You're now going to have to pick up the cost for that value-added tax. It is known as a regressive tax. Okay. And a regressive tax, by definition, hurts the poor and the middle class worse than it hurts anyone else. The question needs to be asked to that candidate and anybody who, even Andrew Yang, he hasn't been talking about that since he got out of the race. Why? Because they hit him on that value-added tax. You got to do a value-added tax to pay for it, or you have to cut the programs that currently exist. SNAP, Medicare, Medicaid. And when they talk about comprehensive health care, when you ask the guy who's really proposed it now, his name is Murray, Charles Murray. When you ask him about how do you pay for health care with this universal basic income, he says, well, you take $3,000 back from $12,000 that you give people to pay for their health insurance. So they give it to you in one hand and take it out of the other. That's one reason I'm in this race, because it's a big lie. I'm sorry. That's where
You're
I'm
right.
coming from on that one.
Dr. Field, hold on for a minute. This is good. I just wish we had everybody here so they can, we can do that back and forth. And Mr. Freeney.
Well, I've done that back and forth before. And when I do that back and forth with them, they cut the program back. So, oh no, we're not talking about making it permanent. We're talking about just doing it for 1 year, just doing it for the time being as we get through this epidemic. Well, consider the fact that we're trying to get $3.5 trillion plan out now, and you're going to add another $3.5 trillion on top of that, make it $7 trillion. Your plan ain't going to work. It ain't going to get through Congress. We're about to cut our Biden plan back to 1.5 to 1.7.
I can't do it no more.
Okay. Are you ready, Miss Mona Lisa?
Well, what I'm saying is this. Yes, I'm ready. Like, for example, let's just go to basic humanity, right? And how you doing, Dr. Phil? My name is Mona Lisa Webb. Pleasure. I really like a lot of the names that you threw out. I see you're kind of revolutionary, so you kind of already catching my attention. However, let's make this clear with these politicians, bro. Like, y'all come up in here and y'all just go bananas. You feel me? And y'all don't listen. Y'all see in constituents sitting, and this is for Dale Holness, this is for everybody who coming on. Like, if y'all come on a show and y'all see people sitting here waiting, we're supposed to have a conversation, right? Like, mere respect for the constituents should be number one priority. That's number one. That's why I don't believe none of y'all. Like, y'all just be talking, and I'm getting frustrated because we can't even like have a dialogue because everybody just got all this stuff to say. My question is,
yes, ma'am.
I'm just being real, man. I'm being real, and I'm being as respectful as I can be, because this is triggering for me. All right, so my question is this, brother. And I appreciate you, like you mentioning Farrakhan and all these people like that. I really listen to, like, I read your stuff, and before you came on, I done told Mr. Bobby Henry and Perry, like, I really kind of liking that Dr. Phil Jackson, right? So I'll say that. But this is the thing, as a person in the community that does a lot of work on the ground, right? I'm talking about on the ground, on the trenches. The places where some black folk don't even like the black folk that live there. So let's talk about some real issues, right? There's so many black folk that are on this side that don't look at the black folk that are really on the ground. You feel me? And our children, the poverty level, the unskilled black man that can't get no job, but we want to talk about home ownership. How the hell they supposed to keep their home when they ain't got no skills? Number two, as a person, again, that works on the ground, how are you going to assist us? Because most politicians can't do the work on their own or by themselves. You got a lot of people on the ground that are doing what I call the real work, not the photo ops for all of y'all out there listening, all you fake politicians with all the BS that y'all be doing. We not down with that no more. And I'm talking from the street. I'm not talking this. We not down with all the talking. We not down with the photo ops. How are y'all going to support people like ourselves on the ground that are doing the majority of the work that politicians out here ain't even doing? You feel me? So all this talking, and if I come back next week, I'm finna do the same thing, because that $1,000 stuff you talk about, I see that shit, and that shit is bullshit. And I don't know, Barbara Cherie, I don't know who it is. Stop lying to the people. So that's it. My question is, how in the world are y'all all up there in Congress going to support groundwork? Man, our kids are killing each other. Broward County is there murders out in Hollandale, Miramar, and this ain't even money motivated. It just everybody's in dire, desperate need. We out here putting in real work, which means what? Feeding our children, clothing our children, showing love. How do we get a grant for love? You feel me? Our people need love and attention. And everybody want to talk about what happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Man, we in 2021, bruh. Like, what is it that we are going to do? Because, man, this shit, we don't even want to vote. We don't want to deal with y'all. We don't want to do nothing. You feel me? How do we convince our people? How can we trust? Why should we trust politicians, man? Because I don't see no other race of people doing all this craziness that we doing. You feel me? And this is not directly to you, Dr. Phil. You just happen to be on here. But it's just like, to the politicians out there, man, when you have a like, let the constituents talk, I guess. I don't really know what to say, but this shit got me all messed up.
You all right? Stop right there. Let's just take a deep breath for a moment. You know, Mona Lisa, I love you. You know, you just bring it home. And Dr. Phil, the fact that you acknowledge that, that's something in itself. You know, we're all in this cycle together. And I don't want to speak for you, Mona Lisa, but Lord knows I feel your pain. And it's obvious that Dr. Phil, it shook you too. That's obvious. And the fact that you were willing to address this issue, that's something else. And I just want to uh, say to anybody out there who's watching, who's listening, this is a conversation that we need to have. The fact that it's happening in this political climate is something else, but it's a conversation that's needed. And the fact that Dr. Phil, an educated champion for the people who have engaged on a number of occasions to try to fill a seat, and no, he wasn't successful at doing that, but I'd be damned if what he was trying to do was to bring attention. It's obvious because it's being recalculated now and delivered by Mona Lisa. So this whole action, Dr. Phil, this whole action is one that is supposed to happen. This whole cycle is supposed to happen. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of this cycle. To allow this to come up. We're not done yet. Now, but for the sake of time, again, our producer, our director, she has two daughters, and they have to get ready for school. So we only have a certain amount of time. So anyway, this goes, Dr. Phil, win, lose, or draw, we have to come back and engage in this conversation because it's one
Well,
that's needed. Mhm. Yes, sir.
I know it sounds like you're closing.
I'm about ready, but
Mona
I'm gonna
Lisa
let you
was very
close.
passionate. Okay, all right.
I'm gonna let you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you. Mhm. I'm
go
gonna
on.
give you your opportunity. I'm gonna give you your opportunity to close. I just wanted to say that, but I also wanted to extend an opportunity. We gonna come back to you, Dr. Phil. Don't go anywhere. I also wanted to extend a moment to Mr. Busby if he wanted to say something before we work our way around here. So
Okay. Uh, Dr. Phil, I mean, like everyone else on the panel, the words you say are run deep and run deep in our soul. Uh, like Mona Lisa, we have a very partisan government at the federal and really at the state level. Some would even say even at the county level here in Broward. Uh, we definitely need some new infusion. Uh, what infusion can you bring that will break the fever of this idea that I'm not true to my partisanship uh, unless I attack my opponent? Uh, there's definitely got to be a part where we find some middle ground.
Before you answer that question,
How do you get there? How do you get there with all of these egos now and stupidity running amok?
okay, before you answer that question, Dr. Phil, please, before you answer that question, we're going to ask that you do this for the sake of time. If you could answer that question, I know it may be extremely difficult for you from all your wisdom that you possess to answer it in a certain amount of time. But could you answer that question in 40 seconds? And then once you answer that question in 40 seconds, could you give us your final thrust for us to understand, your position? And if you can do that, you see 40 and 20 makes it a minute. So you got 1 minute, Dr. Phil, in all your educational astuteness and your military savvy, you got 1 minute to answer that question and bring it home for us, Dr. Phil.
Well, thank you for the opportunity tonight. And what I've tried to do, and I've expressed that tonight when I was addressing these teens, that was a beautiful moment. These young people were demonstrating the leadership skills that they are developing as a result of coming together as a community across Fort Lauderdale. And I talked to those other folk who are on that dais, and I said, whatever we need, whatever happens, we have to support each other in the end. Yeah, we're going to debate, we're going to throw darts here and there, but the bottom line is we all have a passion for the community. And I told them, specifically, I was talking to Mr. DuBose, who was sitting next to me, and Mr. Morrell, who was on the other side of me, that I have learned immensely from everybody who's been in this campaign. I have challenged their ideas. I have not attacked them personally, just as I challenged the idea of a UBI, because I understand the history as a professor of sociology and political science. I know the history of this thing. And in regard to street cred, I got street cred. When I go out and find people to do, when you talk about working on the streets, you talk about working in the community, I'm out there with the guys. They know me here in River Beach. I've been out here for a long time. They know Dr. Phil. Well, I won't give you my street name, but they know me. And I have worked when it comes time to get things going. What's your street name? There was a basketball tournament held recently called Balling on the Beach. They didn't have the labor to put these courts together for our kids, middle school kids, to play this tournament, where they came in from all over the state. Okay. What I did was I went to St. Anne's, which is where the homeless guys sit. These people I know. I went up to 44th Street on Broadway. These people I know. They know me. I said, who wants to work for $20 an hour to put these courts down for these young people? I took them in there we put those courts up in 2 days. We tore them down in 2 days. When I go out on the campaign trail, the people I take out on me, and I pay them $20 an hour. The people I take out on the trail with me are homeless guys sitting on these street corners out here, people that know me. I'm in the streets. I'm out there with my people. You see, and I've been out there since 1973. I give you the history to let you know that I'm long-term in this fight. And I close with that.
Okay. Hey man, look. This has to continue. Okay. So I'm gonna close it out. All right. And Dr. Phil, your passion is noted. What you do for the least of them, you do it for me. That's obvious in what you're doing. Mona Lisa, Lord knows we know from where you come from and your passion. And we need that.
And I want to speak to her, speak to Mona Lisa. What I would do is I would bring people together.
How you gonna cut me off, Dr. Phil? How you gonna cut Dr. Phil? How you gonna cut me off?
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, how you gonna cut me off? I'm doing my closing out.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, you two.
You trying to get me out of here. You trying to get me out of here. But she got me fired up. I was listening to her. She got me so fired up.
I know.
She got me so fired up. I got to speak to this sister. And you didn't let me speak to her. You went over to Paris. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look here, Doc. If you don't mind, we'll pass your information on to Mona Lisa, so we can hook up. Because there's some stuff that we're doing collectively, and Lord knows we need this energy. So
Right.
if I can finish my monologue and closing out, Dr. Phil, can I finish?
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Phil, I like you, bro. I ain't
Not
gonna lie, I
problem.
like you.
Not problem.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like you. I like you.
And this is what it is, y'all. We can cut to the chase. You cannot put realness in a bottle, and expect for it to stay there. It's gonna come out, So I really want to say thank you to everybody who has participated tonight. We're gonna do it again Monday. Monday we got Commissioner Barbara Sharif and Senator Perry Thurston. So we're
Oh
gonna do it
no.
all over again. Yeah, so we're gonna do it all over again and come back. So I want to
Well,
say,
good luck with that.
uh,
Mona Lisa,
okay,
bring
what?
that fire again now.
Absolutely. I want to say this. God bless you all, and I can soon learn to do it if you let me see it done. I can watch your hand in motion, but your tongue too fast may run. For the very best of teachers are the ones who live their creed, and to see good put into action is what everybody needs. So good night to all. I love you, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. So let's move forward.
All right.
Go Rattlers!
That's right. Okay,
All
listen,
right.
Gaines.